What if everything you thought was unclean was never meant to be rejected in the first place? What if the boundaries you've built are the very thing holding you back from something greater? And what if a single moment could completely reshape how you see the world and the people in it? While messengers were on their way, carrying a request that would soon change everything, another moment was unfolding somewhere else, quiet, personal, and deeply transformative. Peter had gone up onto a rooftop to pray. It was around noon. The day was moving as usual. Nothing seemed out of place, but sometimes the most ordinary moments become the setting for the most unexpected revelations. As Peter prayed, he became hungry. Food was being prepared, but while he waited, something began to happen. He fell into a trance. And then he saw something that didn't fit his understanding. He saw heaven opened, and something like a large sheet being lowered down to earth by its four corners. Inside it were all kinds of animals, creatures that were considered both clean and unclean according to the traditions he had followed his entire life. Then a voice spoke. "Get up, Peter. Kill and eat." The instruction was clear, but for Peter it was also deeply unsettling. He responded immediately, "Surely not, Lord. I have never eaten anything impure or unclean." This wasn't just preference. This was identity. This was tradition. This was how he had been taught to live, what he had been taught to avoid. To Peter, this command didn't just challenge a habit, it challenged a worldview. But the voice spoke again, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." That statement carried more than surface meaning. It wasn't just about food, it was about perception. It was about the invisible lines people draw, lines that separate, categorize, and define who belongs and who doesn't. This vision happened 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then the sheet was taken back into heaven. Repetition matters. It shows emphasis, it shows importance. It shows that this wasn't something to dismiss or misunderstand. But even after the vision ended, Peter was left thinking. He didn't immediately act. He didn't jump to conclusions. He paused. He tried to understand what it meant. And while he was still processing, something else was happening at the same time. The men sent by Cornelius had arrived. They stood at the gate asking for Peter. At that exact moment, the Spirit spoke to Peter again. 3 men are looking for you. Get up, go downstairs, and do not hesitate to go with them, for I have sent them. There was no explanation, just direction. And here's where everything begins to connect. Peter had just experienced a vision that challenged his understanding of what was clean and unclean. Now he was being told to go with men who, by cultural standards, would have been considered outside those boundaries. The connection wasn't immediately obvious, but it was there. So Peter went downstairs. He met the men. He listened to their message, that a man named Cornelius had been visited by an angel and had been instructed to send for him. And in that moment, Peter made a decision. He invited them in as his guests. That detail might seem small, but it's not. Because in that culture, hospitality was more than kindness. It was acceptance. It meant crossing a line that many would not cross. Peter didn't fully understand everything yet, but he responded anyway. He moved forward, even while still processing. And that's something we often overlook. We think understanding must come first and action comes later. But sometimes clarity unfolds through movement. Peter didn't wait until everything made perfect sense. He took the next step he was given. There's something deeply human in Peter's reaction to the vision. He didn't immediately agree. He didn't instantly accept it. He pushed back. He said, "Surely not." And that honesty matters, because it shows that transformation doesn't always begin with agreement. Sometimes it begins with tension, with discomfort, with questions. Peter wasn't resisting out of rebellion. He was responding out of everything he had been taught. And that's something many people can relate to. We build our understanding over time. We form beliefs based on what we learn, what we experience, what we're told. And then sometimes something challenges those beliefs. Not to destroy them, but to expand them. The statement, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean," reaches far beyond the vision itself. It speaks to how we see others, how we categorize people, how we decide who belongs and who doesn't. And that's where this moment becomes bigger than Peter, because it invites all of us to reflect. What assumptions are we holding on to? What lines have we drawn? What perspectives might need to be re-examined? Peter's journey in this moment is not just about receiving a message. It's about unlearning, letting go of something deeply rooted. And that's not easy. Unlearning takes humility. It takes willingness to admit that what we thought was complete might not be. And yet, Peter doesn't turn away. He stays engaged, he listens, he moves forward. There's also something important about timing. The vision didn't come randomly. It came right before the arrival of the men, right before the invitation, right before the next step, which suggests something powerful. Preparation often happens before the moment we need it. Peter didn't know why he was seeing what he saw, but when the time came, it began to make sense. And maybe that's something we experience too. Moments that seem unclear at first, conversations that stay with us, thoughts that challenge us, and then later something happens, and suddenly those moments connect. Peter's story here is not about immediate clarity, it's about gradual understanding, step by step, moment by moment. And that's often how transformation works. Not in one instant, but in a series of realizations. There's also a quiet shift happening in Peter's actions. Before, he might have hesitated to interact with people outside his cultural boundaries. Now he opens his space to them. He listens. He prepares to go with them. He begins to move beyond what was familiar. And that shift didn't happen because someone argued with him. It happened because he experienced something personally, something that challenged him directly. Which brings us to an important point. Real change often begins internally, before it shows up externally. Peter's actions changed because his perspective began to change. And that perspective shift started with a vision, with a voice, with a moment that interrupted his routine. So what does this mean for us? It means we should stay open, not blindly accepting everything, but willing to examine, to reflect, to grow. It means recognizing that sometimes what we've always believed might need to be seen from a new angle. It means being willing to move forward, even when we don't fully understand. Because understanding often follows obedience, not the other way around. Peter didn't have all the answers when he welcomed those men. He didn't have a complete explanation when he decided to go with them, but he had enough to take the next step. And sometimes that's all we need. Not the full map, just the next direction. There's also something powerful about the way different lives are being connected here. Cornelius, in one place, receives a vision. Peter, in another place, receives a vision. Neither fully understands what's happening, but both are being guided toward each other. And that intersection is about to create something significant. Which reminds us, our lives are not isolated. There are connections forming even when we don't see them. There are moments aligning even when we're unaware. And sometimes the step we're asked to take is not just for us. It's for something bigger, something that involves others, something that creates impact beyond our immediate view. Peter's willingness to go, despite uncertainty, becomes part of that bigger picture. And that's where the story begins to open up in a new way. Not just for Peter, not just for Cornelius, but for many others. All because one person was willing to reconsider, to listen, to move. So maybe the question isn't just about Peter's vision. Maybe it's about our own. Not in the sense of seeing something extraordinary, but in the sense of being open to change. Being willing to ask, what might I be missing? Being willing to hear something that challenges us. Being willing to take a step, even without full clarity. Because sometimes the next step is not about certainty. It's about trust. Trust that growth is possible. Trust that understanding will come. Trust that what lies ahead is worth stepping into. Peter didn't have all the answers, but he had enough to move. And that movement changed everything. Thank you for watching this video. If this message made you reflect in a new way, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it today.